Looks like we're live. Great. Hi, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. Excuse my voice here. I'm having little throat issues, but hey, thank you, everybody, for uh, jumping in to learn with us as we have discussions about AI machine learning. And we want to share as much knowledge as possible within a short period of time, which is 1 hour, about AI machine learning. If not, teach, maybe give some insights, maybe provide a vision for your specific tailored AI machine learning tools that you either already utilize or will utilize in the coming days. Um, if you have been paying attention for the last 6 months, it has been a crazy journey to get to the AI race, to the top of the AI game. And the big competitors are out there doing the best that they can to embarrass their competitors, because it's coming alive. These AI machine learning capabilities, they're coming alive, and they're coming alive fast, and it's understandable if it's hard to keep up with all this AI development. It's hard for me, even though I've been paying attention for the last 8 some years on how data and how cloud computings and how artificial intelligence are able to flex their muscles in order to provide better capabilities that software and programming language alone could not suffice. So yeah, let's jump into it. Today we have a conversation around education and AI, because as you might know, that there is a pushback from the universities and educational institution about use of ChatGPT for by the students, right? And I'm very proud to say, as I make jokes with my friends, that I have graduated high school without using ChatGPT. So I think I've done phenomenal in that standard. And that's a joke aside. I think ChatGPT is a great tool for any students on any institution, because you would want to let your imagination and your creativity come out, as ChatGPT is augmenting and assisting you with tasks that are tedious. We as humans have creativity that is far more expressive, and we are able to flourish using our memories and our imagination combined when we allow AI machine learning to help us with tasks that otherwise keeps our attention away from this creativity. And that's what we have done with all the technologies and innovations we have had. These imaginations have done excellent in creating new solutions to the problems that we've had for so long. So now we get to pay attention to the problems that we actually can't solve, while we are, allowing AI machine learning to do some of those tedious tasks that used to take our attention away from what actually matters in life. So I will have my presentation up and ready, so that way I can share some slides with you. And as I bring my presentation up, I will make an introduction of myself, and we'll get started shortly. Let me make sure the video's there. All right, the videos are up. Okay, so today we will have Jason, who's a good friend of mine. Speaks on multiple topics. We regularly join in conversation and discuss multiple topics, and we're able to learn from each other. So today I've recorded a conversation with him, so that way I can present it to you guys. So that way you get to hear what Jason has to say about artificial intelligence and machine learning. So that way I don't bore you to death, and you get some insights from Jason along with me. Right. One of the things that I talked to Jason about is the fact that there is risk, and manage that risk, and trust the capability of a system to augment and assist us. And how do we increase that trust for the end user? Right. So develop a capability for the end user. How do we engage the end users with this capability, and how do we increase that trust from the end user So that way, not only are they engaged, but they're also able to help us improve that product that we develop or the capability that we have developed for the end user to use. So why do we have these weekly webinar? It's for our workshop. We have a workshop where we are able to facilitate a dialogue between team members, right? The perfect scenario for us to have is a team of people that are working from different subject matter expertise, domain knowledge, right? Come together as a team and discuss AI requirements. Right? What does it take to develop an AI? What do we have to understand in order to design that AI machine learning for our business process? So what ends up happening in a lot of organizations that in silos, each individual or each team will know certain things about AI machine learning, whereas if you come together with those knowledge in a room and you're able to sit down and write those requirements down, you're able to see the delta, the difference between one team to another, right? Because one team is a subject matter expert in one topic, where the other team might be a subject matter experts in AI machine learning and not really understand the business process, the intricacies of this business process. And having those two teams comes together in a room and engage in dialogue and communicate with each other about the machine learning requirements, it is not only time saving, but is also building a culture of a new identity for an organization. As in, we are AI culture in this organization, and we are able to communicate with each other rather than over each other, right? We are able to use the correct terminologies, a proper definition of what it is that we would like machine learning to provide us, and how that business requirement is able to translate that language for the machine learning to do its job. So again, going back to the recent events, one of the things that have come up in last few days is that the letter that has been signed by almost 1,000+ people, those 1,000+ people are well recognized around the world for AI machine learning contribution. And Yuval Noah Harari is one of them. He's my favorite author. Steve Wozniak, who is one of the original inventor of Apple products, he signed that letter, requesting that all AI labs take a pause and do not train a system that is higher than GPT-4, right? That's a concern that is very valid, and I have few opinions about it, but I'm not going to go into it. But I do want to capture the fact that what they are discussing is how an AI system can be optimized and how that could be destructive if not very helpful, right? We want the systems or the machine learning capabilities to be optimized in a fashion that assist us or augments us to do more, right? However, it could be optimized for purposes other than that, right? So when it comes to data, we are collecting tons of data, and as you collect those tons of data, you want to be able to provide that data with capability so that it assists you in decisions making. And once you're able to make decisions, you're able to optimize that data, which is that loop that continuously improving the data, continuously are checking those decisions and continuously optimizing. So we have tons of data, we make tons of decisions with them, and now we are to a point where we are able to optimize for good or bad, right? And that is important when we're discussing machine learning capabilities, because, like I said, tons of data means tons of decisions to make. But as those decisions becomes, you know, too wide and not focused enough, we need to optimize and provide a better decision-making capability for the end user or the business leaders or just a sailor out on the sea. Wherever the location is, they should be able to make a decision off of the data that has been fed to the system. When we discuss machine learning, one of the topics that is brought up is that this machine learning will take over everything, right? Well, no, it's not taking over everything. It's just a layered on top of what's already existing, right? This infrastructure that we already have in place, it's what the machine learning will utilize, just like software programming and coding languages are utilizing the infrastructure that we have in order to provide us with the services that we are utilizing from the infrastructure, right? If your hardware is connected to the infrastructure, which is the internet, you are able to see how it is that you benefit from having that hardware connected to the infrastructure, right? And if you're developing a machine learning capability, it's not that you're throwing away your old tools. You're actually feeding into the life cycle of that current technology, which is that the capability that you have built over in decades. You are able to add machine learning to that, so that way the full cycle is generated. As in, when you develop a coding programming language and use that language to create a software product, what you have been able to do is look at the business process and collect the data from that business process. Or let's just call it a process in general, right? Even if you're a nonprofit or governmental. So you have your process, and you looked at that process, said, how can we add coding and programming language into this to collect data and have that data be automated in the ways that end users are able to use using their technologies like an iPhone and a laptop, right? So that's half of the cycle, because what you see is that using this programming language, you're able to create data. And now that we have tons of data, what we need to do is have those data be utilized and feed back into the system again in order to optimize, right? In order to optimize the fact that we've collected this data, and now we are using this data in such an automated way that we are able to do more with this data, rather than to say, make those data, collect those data, and just stop there, right? We've been collecting those data. We have massive amount of data. We have massive amount of data stored in data centers all around the world, in the clouds. Now we are able to take this data and feed it back into the system and do more with those data, rather than have those data sit stagnant, right? Because it's very costly to have your data sitting around and not do much. So machine learning algorithm is that other part of that feedback cycle, right? The feedback loop, the feedback cycle. The machine learning algorithm is able to take your information, learn from that information, and do more, either automated or just by providing you with insights, right? There's multiple layers of iterations, multiple layers of developments that you have to go through, but you always start somewhere with your collected data that you already have in-house, and add more data to that. But that's the later discussion. But what I would like you to understand is that traditional programming is not going anywhere anytime soon. What you are developing is a machine learning capability for these traditional programming capabilities that's already existing. So I mentioned data collection, input data. Once we are able to understand machine learning, one of the topics that we will really jump into is the fact that there's a hidden layer, there's a black box that we have to understand how it works, how it does things. And for that, we will have a specific weekly webinar every month and a half, every 10 weeks. We will have a specific machine learning webinar where you will be able to come in and discuss this machine learning capabilities, what are the hidden layers and how are those hidden layers working to churn up data as an output values, right? So we will have more on that discussion. But the basic is that we collect data and we feed that to a machine learning algorithm, and that algorithm is providing you with more data, and that data is far more easier to understand, grasp. Or let's say, for example, if I feed it some data about nuclear physics, right, to a system, but you are not able to understand what a nuclear physics is, because the output value is same as the input value, because there's no algorithm in between to process that data, to turn that data, that nuclear physics information, for you in a meaningful way that you can understand it, right? You as a human can read that in English, in plain language, and say, yep, I understand what nuclear physics is somewhat, right? So that's that machine learning capability. And in education, it's very important to understand that not everybody will want the same output, because there should be a variations about who the user is and how the user will need to learn what it is the user is trying to learn. So if English is not your first language, you would want to be mindful of the fact that the answer that you receive from an AI is provided for just a English speaker, right? They've been speaking English all their lives. They were born in countries that speaks English. Whereas if there was an AI actual, that AI will be able to turn that English for somebody who's learning English recently, who just started learning English recently. So those are the output values. Um, that's going deep into the topic of identifying and using labeling to understand what it is that the output should be like, and then making a decision about with high accuracy and most confidence that the decision the system is able to make. Once the system does it frequently enough and long time with human supervision, it's able to start getting to the point of prediction making, right? Which is similar to how our human brain actually works. Our brain goes through the process of identifying, labeling, and making decisions. And frequently, as we make more and more decisions, which mean we are most likely making 30,000 decisions a day, we are very good at making prediction off of those decisions that we have previously made. It's been running good. I think I'm going to check in with LinkedIn, see if there's any questions here. Feel free to ask any questions as you see fit, because this is not a TED Talk. This is an AMA. So ask me any questions you have. That way, I'm able to tailor the presentation, you know, to to answer your questions, but also to make it present the information in a way that you're able to understand it based on your industry language, right? Or your business process. So let me know what industry you're a part of, or what sort of questions you have, or what sort of capabilities you're trying to develop. So that way, I'm able to answer those questions for you, right? I'm pretty good at tailoring the responses to the answers, questions that I get. So feel free to ask. Try me, right? I'll do my best. All right. So, I checked in with the LinkedIn. I don't see any comments. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Facebook right now, live streaming. So, most likely I won't see some of those questions. So, feel free to put that message on my inbox, either through YouTube or Facebook. And if you're on LinkedIn, I should be able to see the comments. But if not, that's okay. You can always ask me those questions later. AI and machine learning. I just want to put this out there. This is a cautionary tale, like I said earlier, about thousands of AI machine learning, uh, you know, heads. Right, I'll call them the heads. Professionals have requested that we turn. Oh yes, absolutely. That's exactly what we're going to focus on, right? But it's important that we cover the full spectrum first, and then narrow down to the educator how the Chat GPT will improve their teaching. And David, thank you for that question, because that's an excellent question, and we're definitely going to talk more about that. So what's happening right now is that we are able to create these AI machine learning capabilities, but we have to put lots of thoughts into it in order to not only improve, but also see the side effect of it, right? What it is that we might not know. What is that unknown that we'll have to ask ourselves? And who knows the answer? Are they in the table? Is there a subject matter expert or domain experts that is available in this conversation to design an AI that's able to address those concerns, right? So, like I said, it's an ongoing research and development. So, even though they have developed all this Chat GPT and GPT-4 capabilities, now they're under scrutiny to say, like, have you guys done your due diligence? If you have done your due diligence, can you show us? What sort of questions do we have, and how do you answer that question, right? Because we have lots of concerns. misinformation, disinformation, and information that could lead to potential outbreak of violence, right? So we would want to have those concerns addressed as we're not only developing, but as we're deploying it and as we're maintaining the GPT out in the productional environment, right? So without further ado, I want to show you guys our discussion, my discussion with Jason, and we address a few things. And like I said, this is not a TED talk, so feel free to ask any questions. But definitely, David, after this video, I'll jump right into the educators and how the educator will be able to benefit from AI machine learning. All right. So now that we're live, I got Jason here with me. Jason, thank you so much for taking the night. I stayed in the night for you, so I appreciate you. Sharing your insights and give me the opportunity to catch up with you. It's been a while since we last hung out and talked about your adventures around the globe, especially in the education side of things. So tell us a little bit about yourself, about your educational background, and your thoughts and take on technology and artificial intelligence.
Okay. So I'll just give you my background. One, didn't think I would be this far in education. To be honest, I'm not really a fan of school, but I do like learning, right? And so, being first generation and the first to finish getting my undergrad, my graduate, and now pursuing my doctorate, it definitely was something that was. It was something that I couldn't imagine. Like most guys from the inner city, I thought I was gonna play basketball, or I just didn't know. I just didn't know what my options were.
Okay. Now I'm back, right? Okay. Wanda, can you hear me now? Okay, that was one of my fault because I had my mute button on. All right, so I'll go back a slide and start again. Um, of course, I wouldn't be able to cover all the education sectors. Um, yes, that was my fault. Thank you, Wanda. I wouldn't be able to cover all of the education sectors, but what I can cover is the teacher shortage, right? Um, even if we had all the teachers in the world, we wouldn't be able to have one-on-one interaction with the student. But with teacher shortages these days, it makes it far more difficult to cover wide ranges of students that we have. As in, not all students learn their topic the same way as we would expect ourselves to learn the topic, right? The contents that we went through and how we learned it wouldn't be feasible for everybody to understand those topics or content the same way. So it's very important that with teacher shortages, as we see, we have to personalize the learning. So even if you're thinking of like a child who's between like age 3 to 18, the personalized learning also impacts the adult learners, right? Because as an adult, we don't stop learning the way we learned in high school. We actually continue with that. So if we are taught all in the same bucket, we're not going to actually get the full content and learn from the important information that we have in those content, right? And especially when we're being quizzed, it's a whole another level of understanding those topics and passing grades and going through school and what sort of school we end up in is all impacted by the fact that we never had the personalized learning for the way we learn, right? So early intervention, if some students have some situations where dyslexia and things like that goes undiagnosed for a very long time. So if there's an AI system that was able to diagnose these kind of early detection, right? So we can have an early intervention and then adapt, right? If we're able to adapt to the students' capability of how they learn and what sort of information they're learning, and so have a teacher identify all of these differences in each student's ability to learn and have the teacher be supported, right? So like I said, there's teacher shortages, but even without teacher shortages, it's really hard to have a teacher have a one-on-one interaction with students. So now we're looking into this concept of digital twin, right? This digital twin, what that will add to the whole teacher shortage is that the teachers will be able to do more, and now the students will actually find the teachers' content suited for their need, as in how they learn will be adapted for the students' ability to learn new curriculum or content. So we can go on and on about all these fancy AI machine learning tools, but the digital twin concept is what I would like anybody who's listening to this weekly webinar is to think of digital twin. Digital twins is the way to augment and assist any teacher, just like it will augment and assist a student. Right? Digital twin is a concept that is very popular these days, but it's time consuming. It's investment heavy, and it requires lots of thinking through because you don't want to create a digital twin that has a negative side effect that overtakes the positive side effects of things. But digital twin is very popular and is what's being worked at this point in AI machine learning world. So what happens if you have tailored to learning style and strength and weaknesses, right? So if AI is able to assess and AI is able to figure out what the strength of a person is and how do they learn the best and what are their weaknesses when it comes to some of the content, because now it's able to engage and motivate a student to say, okay, you've learned chapter 5, but chapter 10 is a little bit more difficult. So let's revisit chapter 10 before we move on to chapter 11, or let's go back to chapter 8 where you actually enjoyed it and gamify the learning process for the student rather than to say all 30 of the students in the class will have to learn all the chapter 1 to chapter 10 the same way, right? No, we can individualize that experience for the students, the way that students are challenged, but also motivated and have fun as they're learning, just like we'll be able to gamify the content for learning. All right. So, and we have tons of data already available for the students, but we will need more, right? So we will have to have a system that's not learning from the past data, but with also the new data. And as the new data comes in, it's able to adjust its actions and decision makings based on the better labeling process, right? So it's able to uh, provide a student the capability of catching up if that's necessary, right? Because if anybody remembers, back in 2000s we had no child left behind policy, which had some impact that we are still working through, right? So in order for a student to catch up, I think there's lots of AI capabilities that we can develop today, even if we don't develop all the capabilities I just mentioned, but at least work on that piece where you are able to create a summer camp, and then in the summer camp they're taught differently, so that way they're able to catch up faster, right? Just want to throw that out there. And if you have any questions about these topics, please feel free to reach out. I'm a fast talker, so I talk really, really fast. I've been known to talk really, really fast. So give me a shout and let me know if I can answer any of your questions, and put a comment down, or we can meet one-on-one and discuss this topic in detail. So I've talked about assessments already. So the AI will adjust difficulty based on responses, but that comes from the assessment piece. As in, the AI has to go through the assessment with the student in order to understand how the student will learn the gaps, right? What are some of the difficulties for the student? So let's say, for example, I mentioned earlier about second language as English as a second language for a person. Well, that's identifying the gap. It's understanding that this Mandarin speaker who's learning English very recently, they will need to have English, um, you know, discussed in certain ways, so that way they're able to understand the concept of what they're learning as a content. So if they're learning nuclear physics using English language, they're able to understand that English that is written for somebody who speaks Mandarin mainly, right? So the system is able to adapt to that. Let's move on. So benefits are, I guess, as we're speaking, and we can list multiple benefits, but one that is super important is that how do we address this teacher shortage? And since there is no funding really coming down to have more teachers added to the education system, what do we do meanwhile? Right. And what do we do even after all the teachers are back in the education system? Now we are to the level where we have 100% capability of all the students and all the teachers that we need. Well, we will still need this futures of tailoring instructional materials to individual needs, right? Because when I need to learn, I rather learn in a team environment where there's 4 or 5 people around me and we're discussing a topic back and forth. But for some students, they'd rather not have 5 people around them. They don't want that team environment. They want to learn in isolation in a room where they're watching a video or even listening to an audio, right? Those are all preferences. But can you imagine like having an AI system that's able to not only create a human-like voice and able to teach that content to a student based on their preference and their language skill sets, right? If not, it creates the video with Doodle, right? And it draws up a picture and shows them the video that is like a YouTube like, right? So instead of going to YouTube and searching for a specific topic and not getting what it is that they need in order to understand the content, they're able to actually they're actually able to hear and listen or see the content specifically made for them, right? So these are videos specifically made for them, not just available on YouTube, right? All right, so I think let me go ahead and share this link with Jason so that way he can join us. All right. So far, any question? Please feel free to ask any questions in the comment section, so that way I can address any of your questions you have. Um, check in with LinkedIn. All right. Good. That's good. Okay. So White House has lots of AI initiatives that they're pushing out because I don't know if you've seen it recently. There was a funny clip in White House press briefing. Um, yes, Wanda, I like the concept of twin for learning. That's right, digital twin. Digital twin is a concept that is to say, how do you perform a task on a daily basis, and the system is able to learn those daily tasks that you do and allow allows you to focus on other things instead of doing those daily chores on a daily basis, right? So let's say, for example, a system looks at you, looks at your daily activity for, like, for say 5 months, right? And it figures out the nuances that you do on a daily basis and says, like, okay, from now on you don't even have to worry about that, I'll do it for you, right? But within that 5 months you're able to pick and choose the type of errors that system makes when it tries to replicate your activities, right? So you're able to teach it. So that's your digital twin. And it's like, it works just like you do. Things that you need to get done, and it gets it done for you, right? So you're able to automate. Test our students use follow the model of adjusting questions to individual responses. Yeah, I mean, what can we say? Like, we can talk about the fact that a teacher can, with the click of a button, teach a system the new content, right? As in, say, uh, history is my favorite topic. Well, history is not my favorite topic. Conflict is my favorite topic. History is just happens to be full of conflict. And if the teacher was to, say, like, create me a quiz off of the French Revolution, right? And then, the quiz is built for all 50 students, same one quiz, but off of that one quiz, off of that one topic, the system is able to identify Tommy needs, French Revolution taught in audio, and somebody else needs the French Revolution taught. Say, somebody from Mandarin speaking background will need to learn French Revolution in English. And when they create the content, it's in a video, but with Doodle, and then with that Doodle, it's able to actually address the fact that, it's teaching a person who's from Mandarin language background, right? So they're able to, insert that individual student into the video, so that way, it's, the doodles are actually saying, this is you and this is everybody else and this is what you're learning, right? So the videos are highly interactive and individually tailored. And if you can imagine, if a student was learning a lesson as their reading topic, right? The It is a little bit of privacy concern there, but if you can imagine, like, your eye movement, right, as you're shifting your eyes left and right, the system is able to track which one you dozed off on, right? So if you're chapter 3, you're super involved in, and you move to chapter 5, all of a sudden chapter 5 you're not super interested in. It's able to go back and say, like, let me teach you chapter 5 in a different ways, because I realized that you dozed off in chapter 5. Chapter 3 and 4 you did great. If I quiz you right now, most likely in chapter 5 you will do very poorly. So let me go ahead and address chapter 5 in a different way, so that way you take a break, you listen to chapter 5 in audio, right? um, and I know I'm sounding insane here, because the amount of data that will have to be produced for that is insane. But I think that would be a less of a concern in the coming days, because the data issue situation we are handling it as we speak, that those data will be highly available for each individual use, and it would be super tailored. It would be very personalized, and there will be so many recommendation systems that will be out there that will make our teaching that much more fun and interactive. Yeah, master teachers guide the AI that teaches students. Right, right. AI in China is far more advanced than what we are used to, because when we think about Chat GPT, we are fascinated with Chat GPT since November of 2022. But China actually have a female chatbot that has been communicating with people to help them with their mental health crisis or mental health issues since 2015. And it's highly popular. It's very popular. I think it has like close to 100 million users in Asian countries, right? So some of the systems that we see in US is highly trained and highly prepared to deal with Western culture. But in China, I would say, they probably don't care as much about the privacy and security and safety as much as we do. So they have some of the AIs that are far more advanced than ours. But at the same time, I have some concerns with their capability. But yeah, master teachers guide the AI that teaches the students. Amazing, right? Now think about teachers don't have to worry about grading quiz anymore, right? Create one quiz by AI system, take a look at it for 5-10 minutes and say, yep, that quiz looks good. The student should be okay. And then once the student takes the quiz, the grades are already there. And the contents that teacher is trying to teach, it's augmented for the teachers, right? So teachers are able to do more with the little times that they do have, especially with teacher shortages where the teachers will have to teach multiple classes and in multiple locations. As in, teachers might have to teach over the state border, right? Somebody from Oklahoma might be able to join into the class just to attend courses in Kansas, right? So I think those are the systems that are coming down the pipe where we will have teachers teaching virtually in multiple states. Thanks, David, for that comment there. Let me move on to the next slide. Okay, so one more time, just a reminder, right? These AI systems, they have potentials, but we have to be really careful about balancing the act, but also address the risk and challenges. We want to be able to manage those risks, but as we are able to, just because we can develop doesn't mean we should develop, right? We should have the subject matter expert in the room. We should have the domain experts discussing the topic, so that way we are able to address some of the concerns ahead of time. So that way, when it comes out in public and public have the same concern, we're able to address those concerns for the public. And if there's no question, I'll move forward. Now that I know what went wrong on the video with Jason, I'm gonna go back to that video and finish up some of it. Let's see. And David, if you can, let me know what you think of that video, if that video is, audible or not. All right. Okay, let's start from here.
Turkey, South Africa, just being able just to see different infrastructures. So it definitely has afforded me a lot.
Yeah. I can only imagine the infrastructure that we started off with versus the infrastructure we have today. It's far different, and it will be far different in coming years. But I think that infrastructure has given the opportunity to bring the world closer and connect many of the silos, right? So what was not possible 20 years ago might not be still possible today, but it's far more possible than it was previously, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as you were mentioning, like Bell Labs and your ability to, use internet to travel the world, right? Not just physically, but digitally, and that ability for us to communicate from between Ohio and Texas, right?
Mm-hmm.
These are all possible because of optimization, right? And one of the things that AI machine learning is really known for is optimization. You can collect all the data in the world you want, but if you're not able to optimize that data for the right use case, that data just becomes a electric bill that he cannot, excuse me, that he cannot afford, right? Excuse my voice here, it's given up. But I appreciate, how you have put down like the whole run through your technology experience and educational background, because one of the things that we've been discussing prior to this call was that, you know, skepticism in educational institution, right? Universities and colleges are looking at ChatGPT and looking to ban ChatGPT from its use. And I completely understand the concern here. The risk is there. However, there is another side of risk, right? When you have to deal with risk, you have to approach risk with a risk management perspective rather than avoid that risk, right? How do you manage that risk? How do you approach this carefully? So that way you're able to not only address what happened in the past, which is calculators, right? When the calculator was introduced in school grades, teachers were out in the street protesting. No calculators. Keep that off the classroom, right? And here we are in 2023, pretty much having the similar discussion about ChatGPT. What's your thought on this risk management and the fact that AI is scaling itself to the level that now universities are discussing banning some of the features?
Well, I just think that I think the main thing with that we're supposed to evolve, right? Like I don't think we're in the cave anymore, right? Some of us mentally are in the cave, but we're not in the cave. Like once technologies are there to use them and utilize them and optimize them, right? So as far as like when we look at AI, like those are certain things that could use to help personalize a person's learning plan. It a lot of times we're just going to just be honest and upfront. People are afraid of technology, right? Like, so you can look at it like it can optimize, and there are where people are going to cheat, but cheating goes back to you can do it manually, right? Like I can look over at someone's paper, or it's several ways to cheat. So or be considered cheating. So I just think that the best thing is just that's just some people really truly believe in their heart that some people just like to protest and just are resistant to change. But if you really look at it, teachers are using artificial intelligence to help with their grades and to help them do automated things as well. So once you have those things, like we can't be one sided on who can use it and who cannot use it.
Yeah, and I think even though I'm holding this weekly webinars, recording podcast, and having discussions about this AI machine learning in repeated fashion, not just to promote the safety of AI and the security of AI, the privacy of AI, but the core of our brain processes are trust, right? The trust is what we have built over time as we have done the cycle of breathing in and breathing out, right?
Mhm.
As long as you've been alive, you've been breathing in and out very consistently, and then which is persistency, right? And then you have your commitment that you're able to actually going to take the next breath and process the information that your five senses will send to your brain for processing, right? Your brain has that knowledge of persistent information coming in and its commitment to process that information for you. And with that, the brain has built that mechanism of trust, which comes in a long period of time. Because as soon as you're born, you're not able to trust. You are trusting once you are persistent in an experiment and you've committed to that experience, right? So that so that what we're experiencing right now is that lack of trust in AI machine learning, because we're not so sure about the commitment piece, right? Because we are persistently using artificial intelligence, like you said, the teachers are utilizing it. But even without teachers, we can look at the rest of the world who, if you're using Google, that Google is optimized based on machine learning, right?
Mhm.
That is an AI. That if you don't call it a machine learning, you would call it an AI, because AI is machine learning and machine learning is AI. And with your commitment piece, one things that we cannot, we have not resolved yet to the point that we can say, is this tool AI machine learning? Is this tool committed to my best for the best of me, right? Or is it best for somebody else, right? Who is it serving? That commitment is not clear. We don't know, are we being served the best, or somebody else is taking advantage of our trust in this tool? So I think that risk management piece of it, once we start engaging with the trust and we talk about persistency of this capability that is providing us with lots of good information, yet we're not sure how committed it is for our best of us, right? Like, as in, it's able to do the best for us without tricking us with misinformation or disinformation, or take advantage of our trust by selling us product that we don't necessarily need. And I think we discussed some of those items already. But yeah, I think just to get into that a little bit more, like, how do we build that commitment piece, right? Because some of the things that we can say right now for a product development is that we know where the commitment lies, right? It's financial gain, a return on investment. So going forward, I know you're the DEI guru, so wanted to hear from you about, this human in the loop concept, as in subject matter experts from different domain, their domain knowledge, and bring that to the table in order to design an AI. So that way, once it's developed and deployed, it is serving that commitment aspect of things along with persistency. I want to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, I think the biggest thing when we talk about AI, I just look at predictive analysis, right? So I'm not sure if you heard about the story. I think this came back. Target is one of the was the leaders in predictive analysis. Did you hear about the story about the teenage girl that was pregnant?
Without her mom and dad finding out, they
Yeah,
sent her.
yeah, they found out that way. So for me, being that I'm from the African diaspora, I would love to see where we can take AI with diversity and inclusion to look at it and say, let's predict how much this role will encounter racism or discrimination. I would love to see that. But we have to look at it from a standpoint as, one, how many people really want an app like that? Two, what are some of the risks that are associated if that app gets out, right? So now someone's like, hey, look, can we ease up on that? That's what I see from a DI perspective. If we're going to actually really look and delve into that, like, how predictive can we see where these situations can be discriminated against in this role or in this company or in this group? That's the predictive model where you will want to see. Or you can say, okay, well, this person is not racist, or this isn't discrimination. Let's tailor their learning style to make sure that they're not in situations where it can come off like they're being discriminatory. So these are all certain things that when they're actually programmed, and when those thoughts are actually celebrated and looked at to go forward. So those are a lot of things with artificial intelligence and machine learning, where you can actually use neural networks to find out how you can predict this.
Yeah, I think some things that are not programmable, you want to utilize machine learning for that. Machine learning is not for everything, but when it comes to complexity, you definitely want to put machine learning on top of that choice list, and then approach with caution, because the bias in machine learning, it could be as heavy as a developer of that machine learning, right? The data set, because my data is my favorite data, right? All the other data are just nonsense until it becomes my data. And so these biases we want to be able to tackle in the design phase, and have subject matter experts from multiple levels, right? Multiple domain knowledge, in order to come together and say, what are we trying to accomplish? Why are we trying to develop this product? And what sort of outcome will we like to have? And how would that outcome produce a better scalability? Like you said, you try to address one issue, and then from there you reverse engineer it to improve that situation, right? As in, let's not have that happen again, which happens with gender, right? We've had multiple cases where female hiring by AI resume readers was a catastrophe for one of the big giants, right? One of the FANGs. They pulled it. And at the end, they had to resolve that situation by, going back to the manual process, going back to a better process, reverse engineer it to say, how do we fix this, right? All situation that comes with a challenge, there's a solution for it, but you have to have that subject matter experts and domain expert to come into the table and address these concerns, right? And you have to list them out, and then you have to look at the due diligence and say, have you done your due diligence to release a product that is probably will run into some issues, right?
Mhm.
And how do you reverse that and create a better product with the next version, right? Um, the planning is super important when it comes to the AI machine learning. Unlike many other software development that we have experienced for the last 30 years, this piece of planning and designing and product developing, validating with the subject matter expert is key in deploying a successful AI machine learning tool. So with that, I would say we've talked offline for various amount of topics, but this one is the one that we can both agree with. The risk is there continuously, but managing that risk is the way to go, rather than to say the risk is there. Let's just throw the baby away with the bathwater, right?
Mhm.
Let's manage the risk, understand and build trust in that risk. Because if we understand the nature of the risk and how it behaves and what are some of the hidden layers between the input and output, we are able to address it and communicate with each other rather than communicate over each other.
Yes.
Because we don't understand the hidden layer, we don't know the intricacies of the hidden layer, we don't know how to communicate the concerns with that hidden layer, we might communicate over each other continuously, and that eats up a lot of the time. So I think it's important that all of us level set the understanding, like you said, neural network. You understand neural network for the purposes of DEI. You might be the subject matter expert in DEI. But if you talk about neural network with somebody who just watched a Will Smith movie and wants to, prevent the robots from coming around, right? We will have two different conversations because your neural network understanding and their neural network understanding is two different topics, right? I just want to end with that note because risk management, building trust, and communicating these requirements with each other is super important.
Yeah, it really is. And I just think that with a lot of times people have different definitions of things, and I think that's where it's done. And a lot of people don't have a standard definition of what diversity, equity, and inclusion is, and what diverse and environments are. Right, like so you can have representation, but if that representation they all think alike, that's not diverse, right? So we have to just do a better job with that. And then also, as far as like with programming, you have to look at it like what are people looking at when they're programming and designing these artificial languages and intelligence and machine learning? Like what are we actually doing, and what best interest are they suiting? So
Well, sir, the concern will be here for decades to come.
Mhm.
I'm just glad that we're having this conversation. We got it started, and hope to have many of these more conversations because this is just the beginning, I would say.
Mhm. Anytime, anytime.
Thank you, sir. Take care.
All right.
All right. So that was my friend Jason, a good friend of mine, known for a very long time, highly educated. I would have to, really think of who else I would rather talk to about education systems than other than Jason, right? So if you have questions or concerns or comments, please feel free to share. I see Wanda has shared some comment there, and I'm going to try to address that as clearly as possible. Because yeah, I think when it comes to the standalone system, one of the topics that I was thinking about right away is that uh, uh, we will get to a point where the machine learning on the edge will be on a standalone device that is not connected to the internet and is able to perform for all consumers, right? Just like you have an iPhone in your hand right now, you'll be able to have machine learning services provided to you from a device that is not even connected to the internet, right? So those are the capabilities that are coming down the pipe, because we're getting far more sophisticated with the hardwares that we're developing. The researchers in hardware, which is semiconductor chips specifically, it is coming to a point where we should be able to um, mass produce these semiconductor chips and have them installed into the devices, so that way we're able to do machine learning standalone, for sure. So thank you all for joining. Really do appreciate it. This is the end of the hour. I will be online for a little bit longer until I'm able to, see if there's any questions or concerns or comments that somebody have. And with that, let's meet again on another weekly webinar, because these weekly webinars, we will have different topics. So any topics that you think is interesting, please drop it in the comments or chat, let us know, and that way we will put together a specific machine learning discussions around that topic. So that way we can hope to find you some insights and give you some information. The reason we do this weekly webinar is because it's very, very critical that uh, when we are already developing an AI, or we're looking to find a AI that fits our business process, or we want to help somebody else develop their AI, that we all come together as a team and understand what AI machine learning is, right? Once we understand what an AI machine learning is, just like we would understand what a coding language does and what are their capabilities and what are their limitations, what are some of the things that can be problematic once they're productionalized, we have to do the same with AI machine learning. We have to understand the hidden layer, the black box intricacies, and how that could be either improved, or it could, have a negative impact on the user or in production environment for our business process. So whatever the case is, we'll have to get together as a team, level set everybody's understanding of AI machine learning. So when we are engaging and communicating, not only do we save times by communicating properly the first time, so there's not much confusions, but we're also able to save the life cycle that it takes, the life cycle of design, development, and deployment. We're able to actually release faster, and not only release faster, but improve and activate our responses much faster, because we have designed correctly. We have communicated very clearly early on, so that way that communication gives birth to a AI culture within the organization, and we're able to maintain and trigger our responses in production deployment environment. So, with that, if there's no question, my name is Asif. I am with COOP VEA, which stands for Continuity of Operations Planning and Vulnerability Assessment. That's what military utilizes for addressing any sort of disruption or disaster that might come along during our mission. So we always have a plan to address our vulnerabilities, address any disruptions. What are some of those plans that every team member should be aware of in order to either retreat, or in order to move forward by leaving behind whatever disruptions that we're experiencing, right? So that's the goal, is to have decision science strategy made for AI machine learning purposes, so that way when we develop these AI machine learning capabilities, we are incorporating decision science behind it, so that way we are able to address any sort of disruptions that we have in the future. We do this weekly webinar. So if you have any questions that you would like to reach out to me in one-on-one, I have few messages that I've seen on my inboxes so far. I will get to them as soon as this presentation is over. And then if you have a need for your team to get together and have these workshops where you're able to engage with each other about your ideas of how you should adopt an AI machine learning, let us help you. Let us help you to understand how machine learning works and let your team understand how machine learning works. And that way, when you are engaging with your team, you guys are on the same sheet of music, and everybody has a level set understanding of how an AI machine learning capability will improve and add to your value of doing business. With that, thank you all so much. Be online for a few more minutes. Feel free to drop in a comment or ask any questions you have. Thank you.